Hello and welcome to the News9 Plus Show on the world's first news and current affairs OTT platform, News9 Plus. Industrialist and philanthropist Ratan Tata has just passed away at the age of 86. For more than 3 decades at the helm of the Tata Group, its former chairman was a toast of Indian industry. Ratan Tata was an evangelist at heart who took on ventures which furthered the India story. He was decorated with the country's second highest civilian honor, the Padma Vibhushan. He was also an industry captain whose departure will leave a void about the future of a 5.5 lakh crore business empire, India's largest business conglomerate that sells everything from salt to software. On the News9 Plus show tonight, I'll be talking with 4 people who've known him closely. My colleague R Sridharan, international editor, News9. Rahul Chaudhary, former CEO Tata Power SED. Sandeep Agarwal, patron, managing committee member, PhD, CCI, and industry leader. And finally, Brigadier Govind Sisodia, who was force commander of the NSG when terrorists attacked the Taj on the night of November 26, 2008. Welcome to the News9 Plus show. Sri, I want to start by asking you this. Sad day for India Inc. We've lost one of the industry titans. And I was just getting off a flight a few hours ago. It was an Indigo flight, and they actually read out a tribute to Ratan Tata, calling him one of the doyens, aviation pioneer for India, in the mold of JRD Tata, and that's someone he really looked up to. That just tells you the legacy of this man. I mean, literally everybody is united today in mourning for it. I can't recall the last time when someone who passed away, an industry leader who passed away, and there's almost a universal sentiment across the country.
You are absolutely right, Sandeep. If you just open, let's say, social media feeds, whether it is Twitter or LinkedIn, the amount of outpouring that you're seeing from ordinary people, anyone whose life has been remotely touched by Ratan Tata, they all have their own story to tell about the man, of what the wonderful personality he was, what a great leader he was. And none of it is actually an exaggeration. Because this kind of response which you're saying, on a flight announcement being made, common people, my wife this morning was feeling bad, that, he's passed away. So he has always been more than a businessman. He has stood for everything that's cultured, civilized, classy, old world, the good way of doing business. So even the ordinary human, ordinary Aam Aadmi has, known that about him as Ratan Tata. So the love that he enjoys in this country, it's phenomenal. And his impact on business, of course, the legacy that he's created after taking over, as a chairman of Tata Sons, we've seen what he's done to the group. They've gone from 10 billion to now more than 100 billion. It's been a total transformation. And he's often had to fight vested interests, very deeply interests in the group. When he took over, no one wanted him there. There were already, influential satraps running.
In fact, it's an OTT series in itself, how Ratan Tata took over, took on the satraps and consolidate the empire.
It would make a very gripping corporate, pot boiler, I'm sure. So all the people he had to remove from their positions to make sure that the Tata Group works as one, that it's a group. It's not merely a sum total of various fiefdoms run by very powerful individuals. And I think if he hadn't done that, the Tata Group wouldn't be here today.
Absolutely. He transformed it from a confederation into a single business empire. And I want to ask Rahul Chaudhary this. Rahul, you've been part of the Tata Group for many years. You were CEO of Tata Power. You've driven some very cutting-edge projects for Tata in the defense business. Tell us about R&T, as he's called by the industry leaders. What was it that made him so unique, a class apart, as Sridhar was just telling us?
Mr. Tata was one person who understood what is now known to be practiced all over the world, the ESG movement, the power of the brand. And power of the brand is not the value being brought that very moment. I'll give the last example first. If you really look at it from his passion for aviation is very well known, and when Tatas had already established two very successful airlines, and then there was this whole question of merging them back with the Air India, which Tatas were to acquire.
Right.
This is a person who didn't flinch. From a business decision perspective, probably that is not the best cents and dollars decision which was done, because Vistara was doing very, very well. Yes. Air Asia was doing very, very well. And here was an Air India, which used to be a Tata company, but it came back to us. Somebody who has the courage of the conviction to bring them back and then merge those nascent business which had started to do well, probably gives a perspective that it is way beyond dollar and cent business that this guy used to look at.
Right. Way beyond the dollar and cent business. And that really is what Ratan Tata was all about.
So I would say that that's actually the Tata ethos, yes. Sandeep, because this all starts with Jamsetji and Nusarwanji Tata. Yes. If you look at our labor regulations, they're actually borrowed from the policies that he implemented in, at Tata Steel, yes. way back. So they were way ahead of their time in every sense, as industrialists who were putting people first, their employees first, the society first. So I think that's the whole DNA of the Tata Group. There's absolutely no doubt about it.
The DNA of the Tata Group as brought out by R&T. But Sandeep Agarwal, do tell us what Ratan Tata's lasting contribution is going to be for India Inc. You know, I'm fully aware of the fact that he took over Tata Sons at a time when India's liberalization had just begun, 1991. So his journey, actually, that increase in the value of Tatas, the house of Tatas, 20 times, he's added 20 times to its value, is literally the story of India Inc. as well, from Absolutely. 1991. How will India Inc. remember him, Sandeep Agarwal?
Ratan Tata would be remembered for once, he was the guy who really made India proud in the world by acquiring, by nurturing, and by making crore steel in UK.
Yes.
And then Jaguar Land Rover again buying them. I bought a company in UK in 2007, and at that time, people did not think twice about coming to an Indian company or selling to an Indian company, just because a few months back, Tatas have bought chorus. And everybody thought that because Tatas have bought chorus, and that has really changed the mood of UK, Indian companies are good. So he basically brings India proud.
Right.
And that is what is his lasting contribution.
Right. He's actually opened the doors of India going abroad 20 years ago. But, Sri, there's nothing that defines the ethos of a person like the time when there's a crisis and, there's bullets flying around, there's a terror attack. And that's where we have November 26, 2008, when you have India's best-known hotel, the Taj, under attack by terrorists. And you have Ratan Tata looking in horror as these terrorists are running, rampaging through the corridors, murdering guests. And I have with me on the show today Brigadier Govind Sisodia, who was the force commander of the NSG that night. And he and his men rescued all those guests, those hostages. And Brigadier Sisodia interacted very closely with Ratan Tata that night. And in fact, the following days of the siege. Brigadier Sisodia, tell us what it is about Ratan Tata that you recall most vividly from those dark days of 2611, when that hotel was under siege and you had the chairman of Tata Sons right there with you in the hotel. What did he tell you when the attacks were on?
When I met him, I felt that he was more concerned about people in the Taj.
Right.
People who were staying there, he was concerned about their well-being, and he was also concerned about his staff.
Yes.
I had a discussion with him, and I also brought out that one of the staff member, Mr. Sunil Kudyal, was the person who was helping us throughout the operation. He knew the ground very well. And I mentioned that to Mr. Ratan Tata. And he was very happy to note that his employee was at the forefront, and I told him he's a very brave person. And as on today, Mr. Sunil Kudyal is the security in charge of Taj.
Yes.
That is one. Secondly, later I joined Tata Group, TCS, as their head of physical security.
Of course, yes.
They're like what has been brought out by my predecessor here while speaking.
Yeah, we have some visuals of you from 2611 with Ratan Tata inside the ballroom of the Taj. Is it the lobby, the main lobby of the Taj Hotel? And Brigadier Sisodia, was this immediately after the attacks?
It was immediately after the attack. He had come to the Taj and he spoke to me. And he knew that probably that I was the one who was leading the operation. He asked me firstly about me, my troops, commandos.
Yes.
He said, I hope they are fine. He checked about the welfare of our troops.
Right.
Secondly, I could see, on his face,
yes,
that concern. And when he talked about the people. He did not talk about the property.
Yes.
Generally, a businessman will talk about the property first.
Right.
But
right.
he was talking about men, people who were staying there. That was his concern. And later on, I got an offer from Tata.
Yes.
To join as head of the security.
Absolutely. And who else other than an army man to figure that out, the fact that a person who's concerned about the welfare and safety of his...
So on that note, let me tell you a personal anecdote.
Of course, please go
Sandeep. I think this was many years ago. I was a young reporter working for a business magazine, and I was doing a story on the Tata Group.
Right.
And so I was told that Mr. Tata would meet me a certain day morning.
Right.
And I flew in the previous day.
This was in Bombay House?
Bombay.
Right.
So this was actually not Bombay House. It was supposed to happen at the hotel.
Right.
So I was staying there as well. So well, as luck would have it, Shiv Sena decided to call a bandh the previous evening.
Right.
So the next day, Bombay was to be completely shut.
Right.
So I was stuck in the hotel thinking, okay, now I have to go back without his interview and any kind of input from Mr. Tata. But guess what? The next day morning at 9 a.m. I was just standing in the lobby, just looking at what's happening. I see one Indica pulling up into the Porsche or the hotel.
Right.
And I saw some guards were running to open the barricade and everything. I was wondering, why are they running? So the man who got out from the driver's seat was Mr. Ratan Tata himself. His driver could not come because the trains were not plying. So this gentleman decides to drive Indica on his own and come to the hotel to keep the appointment that he had given me. I'm just a humble journalist. He had no reason to do that, but he still did it.
He did it. And
so that tells you something about this great man.
Absolutely.
What he truly was as a human being.
Right.
It's an amazing personality.
Well, I mean, that's, I can only remember, recall a handful of people like that, Sri, in India who would actually do that.
Oh,
and,
absolutely.
It's one of a kind. But, I was reading the story that you wrote for Business Today.
That's
very fine story. It actually takes you into the mind of Ratan Tata just a decade after he took over the Tata Group. And here he is consolidating the empire, looking at the road ahead, the automobile sector. And towards the end, you asked him a very interesting question on the question of succession. And it's very eye-opening. I'm just going to read it out. Are you still determined to step down as chairman when you're 70? He says yes, but he did step down at 75. And you asked him about whether he's identified someone to groom. And he's a bit ambivalent about that because he doesn't want somebody who's been identified as being crushed and destroyed. He mentions it in so many words.
Right.
But he says there will be a successor.
Yes.
But here we are in 2024. The Tata Group is left rudderless, if you can call it that. R&T has passed on. Who will succeed him now?
So, Tata Sons chairman is already Mr. N. Chandrasekharan.
Yes.
In 2022, the group gave him a 5-year extension. So I think I don't think we will see any changes there at this point. But I think essentially the challenge for the family would be like who becomes the chairman of the trust, the Dorab Tata Trust and the Ratan Tata Trust.
Yes.
So I think the obvious choice would be Mr. Noel Tata. In fact, in the same interview, I had also asked him about, could Mr. Tata, Noel Tata be a successor one day? He'd said, we would look at all candidates. But what he was implying is that just because you have a Tata surname, you're not going to automatically become a chairman of this group. So I think the values that he left behind in the group, they will continue to guide the group. And Tatas have always been a very professionally run group. They don't depend on family members. They hire the best professionals. They had a parallel TAS, which is like almost as good as the Indian Administrative Service. So they already always created their managers and given them the responsibility, and you've seen the group flourish because of that.
Absolutely, and who knows, he's possibly already thought this through, and he's put a succession plan in place, which will unfold in the days ahead. But Rahul Chaudhary, who will succeed R&T now at the head of the trusts of the Tata Sons, the two very important trusts that actually guide the Tata Group?
Well, there has been a lot of changes which happened when Tata Sons became private. After the entire controversy with Cyrus being moved out and then Tata Sons becoming a private company. So as far as the group and the companies are concerned, that is now very clearly sorted out, and it's now a shareholder level issue at the trust, and a lot of relationship issues have been sorted out because of the problems which happened and became very public, and it went into NCLT and courts and everything else. So as of now, as far as the operating companies are concerned, there is no vacuum. N. Chandra is the chairman of Tata Sons, and Tata Sons has its management structure by which the entire 500 plus companies are managed and collated. The structure, which used to be much more fluid, has become a little bit more rigid. I would say it has more controls now from the center. So there is as far as the companies are concerned, there is not a major issue. As far as the trusts are concerned, their role has also been very clearly defined. Now it's a question of who will be the head, because at the end of the day, a large corporation has to survive with the bureaucracy it has. I mean, that's how legacies move forward, because it is not just one person. It is the process which is put in place. And I think I don't see a huge issue with that. Maybe Noel, maybe somebody else, but possibly Noel. And I don't see that this would be any kind of an issue, which is, he was chairman emeritus. But he was not chairman at this point of time.
He had already handed over to N. Chandra. In 12. And then he came back in, and after that ugly public spat, and then he kind of stepped aside again to allow N. Chandra. So you're going to have the Tata Group being run by N. Chandra into the next 5 years. And the trust, I mean, that is something that
his term is there till 2027.
So, Sri, just tell us about the trust. It's very interesting, because I don't think there's any other company in India of the size of Tata's which have these two very important trusts. And philanthropy is at the very heart of what the Tatas do.
So there's a lot of work. I mean, the legacy which J.N. Tata himself left behind, he's created such amazing institutions in this country. They are some of the biggest, some of the best known institutions are set up by Tata. Philanthropy, whether it's social work, whether it is water project, education, they're into everything. So I think their footprint is phenomenal. And I think the most important role that they play as shareholders is that of basically taking care of interests that the group and its companies do the right thing by the people, there are certain things which are, let's say, they're against the Tata value, so-called,
Yes.
in some sense, they will not be allowed to happen. So I think that's a very important role which the trust also play because of their, ability to control Tata Sons, which is the holding company for the group.
Right. Absolutely. And this is, this is the uniqueness of the Tata Group, and this is why that's what makes them so different from the other companies of India Inc. This trust and what they really do, issues that are really close to the Tata family and the values that you mentioned, Sri. But Sandeep Agarwal, will the Tatas be any different now after R&T's passing?
There is a vacuum, but I believe that the policies of Tata, the trust in the Tata brand will remain as it is, and it should grow further because of the systems which Tatas have already set, and they are actually working. Even government does not think twice before awarding an order to Tata wherever there is a controversy, because they understand that when it is Tata, there is trust.
Right.
So I don't think that this itself is going to change at all.
Right, absolutely. When there is
Just
Tata,
to add to
there is
that,
trust.
Sandeep,
Yes,
yeah.
yes,
So, there are many examples globally also of family-owned businesses going into their, 6th, 7th, 8th generation. There are family-owned companies that have been running for 300 years.
Yes.
So, I don't see why that should be a challenge for the Tata Group, as long as, the systems, the processes, the governing structure, everything is in place.
Right.
I think that's the responsibility also of the head of the trust, to make sure that they have the right systems and processes which will outlive any one individual.
Absolutely.
So I think
it's the moral compass that guides the Tata
Yes.
Group, and that's what Ratan Tata seems to have done very nicely, is to completely separate all of this, get professional management in to run the Tata companies, and of course the family, as Rahul was mentioning, is going to run the trusts. It looks like that's a story we'll be following in the days ahead. But thank you very much, R Sridharan, Rahul Chaudhary, Brigadier Sisodia and Sandeep Agarwal, for joining us this evening as we talk about the House of Tatas after Ratan. Speaking of Ratan Tata and brand Tata, there are two other big brands in India, Amitabh Bachchan and Rajnikant. And they're back on screen after 3 decades, back together. That is, the last time Amitabh Bachchan and Rajnikant shared screen time was in a movie called Hum in 1991. Just to give you an idea how long back that was, Ratan Tata had just taken over as chairman Tata Group, and India's economic liberalization had just begun. Now Amitabh and Rajnikant are back together in this newly released film called Vettayan. It's an Indian, Tamil, Hindi language action drama film. Rajnikant is a super cop. Amitabh Bachchan is a super lawyer. What else could he be? The film also features Fahad Fazil and Rana Daggubati. Now, if the first day bookings and reactions are anything to go by, then Rajnikant, who's 73 years old, and Amitabh Bachchan, who turns 82 a day from today, they're still pulling in the crowds into theatres, and they're the hottest selling duo where brands are concerned. If you look at the number of brands that have partnered with these two actors who are in their 70s and early 80s. Now, these two actors are legends, and they've only gotten stronger with age. So what and how have they constantly reinvented themselves and stayed relevant? And what is brand Rajnikant and what is brand Amitabh that seems to connect with people of all ages and demographics? Joining me to discuss this, Mayank Shekhar, Saurabh Verma, and in the studio I have with me my colleague Krishna Kumar, who's just spilled his tea. So we're going to have chai pe charcha. Krishna, over to you.
Well, it's a Rajnikant movie release, except that, as you rightly pointing out, there's a lot of nostalgia to this moment. Rajnikant and Amitabh Bachchan coming together on screen. Last time they came back, they were together on screen. That movie called Hum was a blockbuster success. That movie also featured Govinda, incidentally. The only person missing from the trio in this film is Govinda. Right. But as if to overcompensate for the lack of Govinda, there is, a man who's called the best actor in the country at the moment, Fahad Fazil. Rana Daggubati of Bahubali fame, who played Bhallal Dev in Bahubali coming together. You're talking about a director who's directing this film, TJ Gnanavel. His previous film was a film called Jai Bhim, which was again a Tamil language film. That found resonance across the country. The Hindi dubbed version was a big hit on OTT platforms, and so Mr. Gnanavel is somebody who's delivered a blockbuster success before this, except that didn't happen in the theatres. Jai Bhim was largely an OTT success story that cut across language borders. So it was a success in Tamil, it was a success in Hindi, across other languages. So that's why there's such a curiosity about a film like this. And of course, the music, I have to point out, has been a blockbuster success even before the movie arrives. That's adding to the hype of the film. Anirudh's music, Anirudh, who is the current highest paid music director in the country, who apparently charged 10 crore rupees for the music of Jawan, is the one giving the music for this. It's his third time giving music for a Rajinikanth movie. The last one, Jailer, his music was considered one of the pillars of the success of Jailer, which made over 600 crore rupees at the box office. So the expectations are very high. Rajinikanth's last film was 600 crore rupees plus at the box office. So will he be able to beat that with Vettayan, with the similar kind of music and high technical standards that the film is made with? Well, the proof lies in the pudding. And the proof of whether the film is a box office success or not, we'll know in about 72 hours from now to start with. At least the first weekend collections should be good, because we're talking about an opening of anywhere over about 70 crore rupees just for day one. But that's all because of the names that you're talking about. You have Rajinikanth. Amitabh Bachchan, albeit, might not be like a hero in the film or a protagonist, but playing a key character in the movie. So there's a lot of allure to that. But we'll have to wait and watch how the audience receives it at this stage. It's got the makings of a hit. Your guess is as good as mine of whether it's actually going to be a big hit or not.
Makings of a hit indeed, and two big brands coming together who've strangely stayed away from each other for 3 decades. Mayank, what gives? Why did Amitabh and Rajinikanth never come for a film together after Hum, which was a blockbuster? And they're very good friends, incidentally.
No, I asked why until now not? Why not rejoice the fact that now they are together? We all distinctly remember Hum. You said a movie called Hum. It's not a movie called Hum. It's one of the finest blockbusters ever made.
Absolutely, it's for the generation that doesn't know. Born after Hum, of course.
Yeah, Mukul Anand. We miss him. He passed away in his mid-40s.
Yes.
He had a lot of movies in him. Speaking of which, I have to say, Lokesh's last film, Lokesh being the top directors from Chennai, his last film, Leo. Right, and that's part of the Lokesh cinematic universe. That was also truly inspired by Hum as well. It's roughly the same story where the man comes back. He used to be an action guy, and then he comes back at later age, and he does it's a revenge drama in the same sort. So even Hum has been around, and we kind of saw reminiscence of that in a Tamil film, which was a huge blockbuster.
Yeah,
as well.
Absolutely.
Why they haven't done a film together? I think this is the right time, because now everyone seems to talk about the pan-India movie. And wasn't Hum also a pan-India movie? I mean, you had Rajinikanth from the south and Amitabh, and of course, as already mentioned, Govinda as well. I think this goes even further pan-India with the Malayalam superstar Fasil in it. So the sell is perfect. The sell is right. Now to really depend on the script.
Speaking of which, I'm going to ask Saurabh, because he just watched the film. Saurabh, Vettayan, first takes on what the film was like. What do you think of it?
So I guess when you release a film or when you announce a film, from there till the release, there's already, there are 10 things you do to promote a film or make the film a brand.
Yes.
But just names, and with the combination of Fahad Fazil and obviously Anirudh, the music director, just these 4 words are good enough for people to say, oh, I'm going to watch it. I'm going to watch it in the first weekend itself. So there's no more required. You don't even need to release a trailer. And if you do, you can charge for it, because that's the kind of brand hype these people. But then every good thing also has a dark side to it.
Right.
So when radiant with a lot of sweetness, sometimes it becomes a little too sweet. There are lots of stars in the film. There's Mr. Bachchan, there's Mr. Fahad Fazil, there's Anirudh, there's Rana Daggubati. But there's one star which is missing, which is the content, which is the story itself, which is the character arc.
Okay.
So that star, I just wonder that, you got everything right. You made a car with all the right things, but you forgot to put that one ingredient which makes it a winner in a Grand Prix or something. So that's one thing which I just that we missed.
The missing hero, the script. It sounds ominous for this movie. You think it will go past the first week?
Well, look, it should do well for the first weekend for all the reasons that Saurabh just spoke about. You know, the hype is fantastic, and mainly they released 2 songs from the movie prior to this film, and both songs have, of Anirudh have become blockbuster successes. They're smash hits. So all of that is going to get the crowds into the theaters for the first weekend for sure. There should not be an issue. But the problem here that Rajani faces is that unlike Jailer, his previous film, which he had to do a comeback with Jailer because the previous film, Annate, was not exactly a hit. It was a washout, so to speak. Right. Now, he has the onerous responsibility of trying to beat collections of over 600 crore rupees. Right. So, which means that Vetain has a tall order to climb, and this is repeatedly been promoted as a content-heavy film. A serious story where, you find the character of Rajinikanth not necessarily a typical Rajinikanth movie. And from some of the early reviews like Saurabh and others, I think there is that eternal problem of how do you balance a Rajinikanth film with the right levels of story, and story progression, at the same time catering to the fans of Rajinikanth, not disappointing the fan base of Rajinikanth who are there for the first weekend, in fact, the first 2-3 weekends, if need be. You have to satiate the fans of Rajinikanth. So that tightrope walk is extremely difficult. Many have fallen on either side. Sometimes it's too much of a Rajinikanth film and not enough of a story film, and sometimes it's too much of a story film and it's just Rajinikanth seems to be suffocating in that story. So this is an eternal problem with Rajinikanth films, and I think Vetain will also face that problem. Net, like in politics, they say Janta Janardhan. We can sit here and pontificate about whether they got the balance right or not. But if the box office numbers then go on to tell a different story, then that's the real story. So I would, hold on to my horses and wait for the box office to speak, wait for the people's voice to speak. It's a little too early. Today is when the movie is released. Thankfully, it's got a longer weekend. It's the Dasara weekend. So, let's see. By Monday, 14th of October, we'll have a clear picture of whether Vetain has hit the bullseye or not.
And the bullseye being the 600 crore mark, as you mentioned.
For now, that seems to be the standard.
Standard for a Rajinikanth film.
Yeah, for a Rajinikanth film. Because both, 600 is when your film is a pan-South India hit. Jailer, for example, didn't do great business in the movie theaters in North India in the Hindi language. So if you do a great pan-South India film, which it did because, Jailer had actors, the top stars of Kannada, Malayalam and Telugu happening. So because of which it was a pan-South India hit, 600 crore rupees, it set a standard. That's what you can do without Hindi. With zero collections coming in from the Hindi language, you can make 600 crore rupees plus with South Indian languages. So that is a standard that is set. Of course, the ambition here with the casting of Amitabh Bachchan is that Vetain does some kind of better business in Hindi, and all that becomes a bonus. It can go anywhere from 600. You know what happens when Hindi is added to the 600? It becomes a KGF. It becomes an RRR. It becomes a Bahubali of 1,000 crore rupees
it's
plus.
The icing on the cake. And Mayank, the interesting thing about Rajinikanth and Amitabh Bachchan is that, Amitabh Bachchan started the trend of the angry young man. We've been revisiting that with the Salim Javed series, right? But Rajinikanth is the actor in the South who remade all of those angry young man roles. If you remember, in the 80s, Rajinikanth's rise to stardom in Tamil cinema was all remakes of angry young man roles of Amitabh Bachchan. Dawn, Lavaris, Sharabi, all of those movies.
Namak Halal
as well.
So, Namak Halal was remade as Velekkaran in Tamil. Dawn was remade as Billa in Tamil. Diwar was remade in Tamil as Thi. These were part of the iconic films that Rajinikanth...
So that kind of explains the bond between Rajinikanth and Amitabh Bachchan. It's almost like a guru-shishya kind of thing, right?
If I can add to this,
yes.
So Rajinikanth, if he remade Amitabh Bachchan films, Amitabh Bachchan went down south in the 80s and remade a Kamal Haasan film.
Right.
That was called Aakhri Rasta in Hindi.
Kordi Punnal.
No,
that was Oru Kaidi in Diary.
Exactly, that one. Oru Kaidi in Diary, which is a Kamal Haasan film. Amitabh Bachchan sees it, asks the Tamil director to come to Hindi and direct the film in Hindi without him knowing neither Hindi nor English.
Right.
And Aakhri Rasta goes on to become one of the most iconic films of Amitabh Bachchan.
But and you've brought Kamala Hassan in. And Kamal is going to be 70 soon.
Yes.
Mayank, what gives? Amitabh Bachchan is going to be 82 tomorrow. Rajinikanth is 73.
74 actually. No.
Oh, is it 73 or 74?
In December, I think he will turn 74.
My goodness. And you have Kamal who's going to be 70. And these guys, you remember the old Duracell ad, Mayank? It's on Duracell, it goes on and on and on. What explains the star power of Amitabh Bachchan, Rajinikanth, Kamala Hassan? What is it that gives them such extraordinary long shelf lives? The kind that we possibly haven't seen in any film industry before.
No, precisely. And that is why when we discuss numbers of a film that has Rajinikanth and Amitabh Bachchan in it. I mean, they're over it, right? I mean, they've been there, done that. They're in the 70s and the 80s. How does it matter whether they hit a 600 crore or, that is for the newbies to figure out for themselves. I think people, for me personally, the fact that it is going to be Amitabh Bachchan's 81st birthday, I don't know a better way to celebrate it than to be in a hall with him in a Rajinikanth film. And let's never forget that it's going to be a Rajinikanth film first. And that's the star power that he's held. I think Rajini's star power has a lot to do with how he's kept himself in his public life and how he's separated from his screen life, as it were, and how he's also kept himself underexposed in a certain way. You look forward to his films, right? And that just generally explains the eras these guys come from. One, we got used to them. Now we can't live without them. And the less we see of them, the more we want to see of them. And of course, Amitabh Bachchan has been the opposite end, where you literally find him on your TV set every night, right? And he is just as agile, mentally agile, just as engaged with his audiences. And he's just become a part of us. And no matter what Saurabh says, this is a critic-proof film, guys. And I'm pretty sure all of you are coming along as well to celebrate Bachchan's birthday with Rajinikanth on the screen.
Saurabh, again, critic-proof film, that's a good line. I'm going to use that somewhere. Well, Saurabh, the enduring appeal of brand Bachchan, brand Rajinikanth. Rajinikanth hasn't done any commercials. He's just possibly done 1 or 2 in his entire career. And you have Mr. Bachchan, who's done 20 of them. He's literally coming out of every screen that whether it's KBC or his 20 commercials, Chyawanprash and soft drinks, what will you have? But Saurabh, what explains the enduring brand Bachchan and brand Rajinikanth?
So I'll just dissect these brands into 2 different things. But one thing common between them is the kind of discipline they have. And just like any other brand, they have a fire still running, high. You won't hear complaints of they not coming on time or not entertaining professional commitments. That's still, the kind of enthusiasm Mr. Bachchan, wherever he does, whatever he does, including his management of his social media. He looks at it like a child, wanting to learn everything. So that's, I think, what makes him stronger. And same with Mr. Rajinikanth. Their choices, like South is doing one thing very right, that the aura of the star is limited and you don't see them everywhere. So that's something, you look at any, whether it's Allu Arjun or whether it's Mahesh Babu, you don't see them everywhere. They won't come all out to promote the film. There are 2 films also releasing this week, which is Vicky Vidyaga Video and Jigra, who are trying to go tom-tom about, going every city, trying to release trailers, things like that. But these, the South stars don't do it. So I think that brings in another mystery. The brand value for some. So I think these are 2 things. But there's also a third brand, which is the film, which is a combination of these 2 stalwarts. I can compare it in a very lighter note with this iPhone launch, where the product is good, the brand is good, but you want a little bit more than what the previous version was. So I'm not comparing it to Hum, and compare it with Hum. I wish I could. So that's what you want. You want better than Hum. That's what makes it more charming and better.
Absolutely. An iPhone launch, as Saurabh just called it. That's what Vettayan possibly is, the movie that's hitting the box office. It's already supposed to have broken the box office according to my colleague Krishna Kumar here, but that's something that we'll be looking out for. Can Amitabh Bachchan and Rajinikanth recreate the magic they once did with this movie called Hum back from 1991? But thank you very much for joining us this evening. Saurabh, Mayank and my colleague Krishna Kumar in the studio.